Oh, the woman that screamed Nazi. Ooh. Kind of gotta feel sorry for her. Only in the sense that, I mean, often horrible things have happened in this age of political discourse and outrage. I mean, we know this woman's face. We've seen it everywhere. I have commented on her face being, quite. But then you think about whoever pushed that old man to the ground. We don't know the face of that guy. And think of all the horrendous things that happened, say during the presidential election in America. On both, let's talk about both sides here. We don't really know many faces of people who did horrendous things then. We don't know their faces. What faces do we know? Well, I don't know. I mean, some faces we know. I mean, I remember the whole humongous thing. Remember humongous? That woman in Seattle went loony on him. She said he was sexually harassing her. We knew his face more than we knew her face. And then Ken Bone, the geezer on that debate. Everyone knew Ken Bone's face. He was defended. Everyone knew his face. We don't know the faces of, these people that punched Nazis or have screamed abuse at immigrants. We don't know these faces. It's interesting, but we know this woman's face. But many people have done far worse things, and we don't know their faces. So you got to feel for her to a certain extent, because there's other people who've done way worse. We don't know their face. Their face aren't plastered everywhere, and it does have an effect. But of course, when it's war, every casualty is also an enemy. Hatred that shamed her family, sickened relatives of NHS workers who screamed Nazi scum at Trump supporters say they can't understand what happened to the girl they knew. Siobhan Prigent, we don't know. We'll just call her Siobhan. Apologised on Twitter for her behaviour at the demonstration. Miss Siobhan was a company director making a living on the back of the NHS. Ooh, on the back, says the Daily Mail. On the back of the NHS, yeah. We can only imagine she got in with the wrong crowd, her ashamed uncle said. Siobhan has a tattoo on her arm, a ring hanging from her nose, and a white t-shirt bearing the message of F off Trump. You'll probably be familiar with her face, if not her name. Yeah, it's only the face we're familiar with. She's the screaming Nazi woman. She is the protester, her features contorted with rage, filmed shouting and swearing at Trump, at a Trump supporter during a demonstration in Parliament Square earlier this week. 9 times she accused him of being Nazi scum. 9 times! Well, there's probably people on Twitter that accuse people of being Nazi scum at least 50 times per day. So, it's not that many. Anyway, before screaming the single word Nazi when she was barely inches from his nose. The person on the receiving end of the onslaught, a semi-retired grandfather, was subsequently doused in milkshakes by the mob for good measure. It's pretty, First impressions of Siobhan, though, proved misplaced. She was not an anarchist. Does she proclaim herself to be an anarchist in any way? Do we know this yet? Don't know. She was not an anarchist straight from central casting, after all. Quite the opposite. Siobhan, like I said, I don't want to say her surname, I can't pronounce it properly. Prigent, 34, is a company director. She's 34. God, you look terrible for your age. Sorry, love. Is a company director who is making a living on the back of the NHS. Or at least she was. Siobhan, who describes herself as a project support consultant. Now, there's one of those job roles within the public sector that someone will tell you that they do, and you'll be like, and what the hell is that, and why are my taxes paying for it? Has now lost her contract carrying out administrative work for the University College London Hospitals NHS Foundation Trust. Can we have an acronym for that, please? That would be helpful for all of us. After more than 80,000 people signed petitions calling for her to be sacked. An indication, perhaps, of the febrile and polarised times in which we now live in. Yes, I would say so. In the end, Siobhan took the decision to cut her ties with UCLH. There's your acronym. Thank you. Herself, because she said she didn't want the NHS to suffer any more negative attention. What negative attention is the NHS been getting? Failing its patients? But in the eyes of many, her explanation, to borrow a phrase much beloved of Jeremy Corbyn, was as hypocritical as the real story behind the ugly scenes that greeted the US President's state visit to Britain to mark the 75th anniversary of D-Day anniversary. Don't know why I said it like that, but there you go. Because one of the off-the-cuff pronouncements by Donald Trump, that's so... Look, there she is. There's that face. Oh, isn't that wonderful? One of the pronouncements by Donald Trump that so angered the crowd in Parliament Square was that the NHS must be on the table in any post-Brexit trade talks with the US. Among the beneficiaries of such a deal would be consultants such as Siobhan and her company VLEK Limited, of which she is the sole director and shareholder. Oh. In other words, her business epitomizes the creeping privatization of the NHS, which critics, especially on the Labour benches, believe has already gone too far. Right, so she is... Yeah, alright, well that's problematic. So you're there on basically the left-wing side, opposing Donald Trump, a man who wants to dip his fingers in the NHS pie, and you yourself are benefiting from privatizations of areas of the NHS. And you're there calling it pro-Trump supporter, a Nazi. This is, yes, you should feel silly. You definitely should feel very silly right now for what you've done. Yes, you should feel like a complete idiot. Okay, yeah, a hypocrite and an idiot. Okay, so yeah, anyway. Therefore, the confrontation in Parliamentary Square resulted in negative attention not just for the NHS but for Siobhan and the double standards which she seemed to characterise her hate-filled compatriots. She was just unlucky enough to be caught on camera and has now apologised on Twitter. Yes, we should have known. Siobhan is not alone in the downright ludicrous hypocrisy of people who have political leanings. You'll have these, many organisations that seem to be very progressive and left-leaning, sometimes even pushing forward socialist ideas when they are uber capitalists who don't pay tax. It's crazy. But that's the clown world. That's where we live. Anyway, she has paid a heavy price for her brief loss of control, and to that extent, it is hard not to have a little sympathy for Siobhan, who appears to have gone to ground after her outburst. I mean, look, mob mentality. I keep telling you, look, you want to talk about the problems of the world. It's mob mentality. It's groupthink. It's groups. It's collectivism. It's bad. Right? Why are gangs bad? Why do people think gangs are bad? Like, people in gangs don't think gangs are bad. Right? We're in a gang. It's not like, it's not like the famous 5 type gang I'm talking about, I'm talking about like street gangs. Do you know what I'm saying? Parkside killers. The reason why gangs are bad, because individually someone in a gang will probably be really cool, really sound, and blah, blah, blah. And then they get into the gang, or like groups of friends, or social groups, and everyone gets together. They become this collective of arseholery. They just become fucking pricks. This is no different. You want to understand the problems that we got going on? It's the mob mentality. It's the gang mentality. And when you got Twitter is like a gang mentality because you're all mobbing together. It's weird. It's sort of like managed to get that mob mentality in a virtual space. It's fucking crazy. Because usually you've got to be around people, but you don't even need to see them. They're all online, but you're all together. You're all in that mob. That's mob justice. Back in the day in America, like especially around between between 1900 and 1940 or something like that, there was 40,000 lynchings. Not just of black people, but there was a lot of mob rule. And when they decided that it was an epidemic in America because they decided that the decision by the lawmakers wasn't good enough, and they thought, well, no, that's not the decision we wanted. So we're going to take it into our own hands to hang this person for the crimes that the law said they didn't commit, but we think they did. Sound familiar to anything like that? Or we don't like that decision, so as a mob, we're going to hit the streets because we don't like that decision. Does it sound familiar? This is what we are, look. You get into a big collective of people and you turn into fucking morons. This is why I don't have nothing to do with it. I'm a lone soldier. Alright? I'm the Lone Ranger, bitch. This is what happens to people. There's no difference between a mob of people like campaigning against Donald Trump or for climate change as there is to the Burger Bar boys back in the day in Birmingham who killed those 2 girls. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a mob mentality. Yo, you tooled up? I'm tooled up. We're all tooled up. Let's go and fucking kill someone. Like, that's it. End of story. Same thing. It's the same mentality. Just different levels of violence. You're willing to go as far as it, there's a different level of how far you're willing to go. It's all the same shit. It's moronic. We all think we're super special, intelligent species. We ain't. We ain't shit. And this is what happens. You got this woman. She's just, she's got her own business, for goodness sake. Look at her. Just look at her out there. The way she's behaving. That's mob mentality for you. Oh, let's all get riled up and scream at Donald Trump for no reason. You're morons, man. You're morons. But the more moronic thing is that you put yourself into that situation. You didn't have to be there. You could have, you know what? These things are toxic. They're toxic. You go to a football match, right? And you have thousands of people screaming obscenities. They ain't screaming obscenities if they're on their own. Do you know what I mean? No one's walking up to David Beckham on their own back in the day and going, oh, your wife takes it up the arse. No, but there's thousands of you saying, Posh takes it up the arse. Of course. Same mentality. Some of these people probably think they're above. They think they're better than football supporters. They probably think they're all morons. Yeah, the great unwashed. The moronic football supporters who scream silly things and think football is so important. Yet these motherfuckers think the most important thing to do with their day is to go around screaming about Donald Trump and getting angry at an old man. What's the fucking difference? You think you're so special and great. You ain't. Oh, we're doing political discourse. We're socking it to the man. We're showing... No, you're not. You're just in the streets acting like thugs and loonies. You ain't no different to a gang. You ain't no different to a football firm. You ain't no different to a mob in the deepest, darkest parts of the bush who fucking burn witches. Still goes on. Burn a fucking witch. What happened? She slept with my husband and turned into a magical dog and sucked the breath out of my baby. Well, let's burn her. She's a fucking witch. What's the difference? You ain't no different. Siobhan. You should have woken up that day and thought, is today going to bring out the best in me? Am I going to arrive at this protest and be the best me today? Will this be the best me? Is me in this situation with all these other people screaming and angry, is this going to bring out the best of me? Am I going to be my best self today? No, you should have told yourself that before you walked out the fucking door. That's what you should have known. Is going here going to bring out the best of me? I don't know. It's like when you get drunk as fuck. You think, will this 8th pint bring out the best of me? I don't know. Will I give a rousing speech? I don't know. Will I do something will I make a profound difference to humanity if I have this 8th pint? No, I don't think it will. No, I think I'll be drunk as fuck. And I'll either be really funny and throw up, or I'll be aggressive and throw up. But one thing is for sure, I definitely won't be the best me after this 10th pint. Siobhan, and all of you, when you wake up in the morning and you decide to go to your little rally, go to your little protest and wave your placards with all your friends, is it going to be the best you? Are you being the best you can be? Why don't you start with yourself and then think, are all these individuals good for me? Is this good for me? Is this groupthink good for me? Is being this part of this collective good for me? No, it's not. You should have thought about that. Anyway, what else have we got to see? Her credentials, proletarian-light credentials, are not the only ironic twist in the narrative, though. She is not even from the hard left background, far from it. There's a strong tradition of public service in her family, as well as a striking military connection. Her mother is a former nurse and her sister is a former police officer who's married to a Royal Marine. Her grandmother was also... Right, they've really, done a lot of research on poor old Siobhan, haven't they? We're going to find out everything about Siobhan, the woman that screamed Nazi in someone's face. Her grandmother was a land girl during World War II, part of the celebrated Women's Land Army, which became a formidable rural workforce to replace men called up to the front line. Her family epitomised the very backbone of Middle England. Some of Siobhan's oldest and closest relatives are made from the same stuff. It is perhaps why they are prepared to speak out about how deeply ashamed and embarrassed they are of her behaviour, not anonymously, but openly and very much on record. Rarely does this happen. Among those relatives is Siobhan's uncle, Paul, a retired production manager, and his wife, Janet, who live in the village of Barton under Needwood in Staffordshire. Siobhan used to spend school holidays with them when she was growing up. They have not seen her for a number of years. She was a lovely girl, We can only imagine that she got in with the wrong crowd. Well, yes, there she is with the wrong crowd. Here's the wrong crowd that your mother warned you about. Well, there you go. Siobhan's 34 and a businesswoman and doesn't even know about not getting into the wrong crowd. Anyway, Janet was equally shocked and angry by what she saw. It's completely at odds with her own values. We were pleased the Trump visit appeared to go well. She was very aggressive and we were embarrassed. These feelings are shared by another aunt, Sheila, the manager of an electrical firm and general secretary of the local sheepdog trials in her native Peak District. Wow, sounds like a riveting time. Riveting life she leads. My older brother, the aforementioned Paul, rang me to ask if I had seen Siobhan on TV. Mrs. Humphreys explained. I immediately Googled her and I couldn't believe that what I was seeing. How is this any way to behave? Well, they sound like very well-to-do people. So blah, 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 blah. The mother is a nurse. Her daughters were close but could not be more different. Mother of 3, Alicia, was a police constable for 10 years. So Mrs. Emerson Thomas, who runs an aerial photography business with her husband, recently appeared on the hit TV show The Heist on Sky One, which blah, blah, blah. Social media posts show her taking part in a range of sporting activities such as weightlifting, skiing and archery. Could there be a greater contrast to her angry, foul-mouthed sister? Oh, so that's her sister. Miss Emerson Thomas, a glamorous, eloquent woman who has fought hard for servicemen and women like her husband, appeared to distance herself from her sister's views in the aftermath of this performance and the anti-Trump demonstration. When it emerged on the internet that the two were in fact siblings, one commentator wrote, Alicia is brilliant and is nothing like them idiots. Thanks, replied Emerson Thomas. In fact, the tragedy is that, just like her sister, Siobhan is a highly intelligent young woman. She has a degree in media practice at the University of Glamorgan and has been working closely with the NHS for the past 10 years, including, according to one online profile, a posting with a leading pharmaceutical company. She's a go-getter, man. So what happened? I mean, look. UCLH stressed that Siobhan's work did not involve patient contact, nor was she a UCLH employee, but had been working for a third-party contracted to carry out administrative work for UCLH. Until that now fateful fracas, she looked to have a very promising future ahead of her. Video footage of the Parliament Square incident shows the grey-haired Trump fan, who was an object of Siobhan's ire, wearing a red and white baseball cap. He was part of the group, waving the stars and stripes, who were behaving peacefully, but Siobhan and her pals were offended by the presence of the Trump supporters. They pulled at the man's jacket. We know what happened, blah, blah. If you don't, just go look at it, blah, blah, blah. Her question, so she apologized. So her apology was questioned as just hours earlier she had posted an expletive-filled message about Donald Trump supporters, including MAGA, MAGA cunt, get police escort, no thanks Nazi, hashtag together against Trump, hashtag dump Trump. Back in Barton under Needwood, Siobhan's uncle remains unimpressed. If it had not been caught on camera, she wouldn't have apologized. Very true, but you know, it's a you know, she has a business. I understand that she has given up the NHS work, but Siobhan's invective was not acceptable in any way, shape or form. Observing the way Donald Trump conducted himself this week, he's gone up in my estimate. I didn't have any particular feelings for him, but his behaviour has been far superior to the way protesters have been behaving. I don't feel sorry for Siobhan, but I do think she is a follower, not a leader. She just got caught up in it. It has been a salutary lesson for her, and I just hope it helps her to grow up. That's very good of him to say. And yes, I would say that Donald Trump has probably earned way more support than he had before. He just gets stronger and stronger, and these people just look stupider and stupider and get weaker and weaker. They just don't learn. They don't learn. And the mob mentality got Siobhan, man, and has lost her some income. So, you know, like I said, do something. When you're doing something, think, are you being the best you? Do you think screaming Nazi in the face of a man not doing much is you being the best you? And and also get your facts straight as well before you start accusing people of being something. Do you know what I'm saying? You know, fact up, man. You know, be the best you, and don't hang out with the silly, angry mob. All right, stay out of gangs, kids. It's not good for you.